Okay, so we are about 12:01, and as always, with the sessions, right? So we should probably be respectful of the time of people who have joined on time, rather than let people who have not joined on time hold everyone else to wait. So again, good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining the fourth session in the series of weekly sessions on BTP. So one of the most important things when it comes to intelligent enterprise or becoming intelligent enterprise is the ability to ensure that all the different applications that you have in your landscape talk to each other and therefore have one single source of data which can then be used to make decisions. And one of the things that you need to do that is to be able to create integrations amongst all the SAP and non-SAP solutions that you already have in your landscape or which you plan to have in your landscape. I know a lot of people who have used PI, PO, or XI in the past and have questions around what is the next level of products that SAP has brought into market for allowing these SAP to SAP or SAP to non-SAP integrations to be done. So that's what we are going to cover today. So I would like to hand over the session to Gautam Krishna from SAP, who will take us through the session. And at the end, we will also have enough time for Q&A as well. So at any point in time, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, please do drop them in the chat, and we will cover all of those questions that come up as at the end of the session as well. So with that, Gautam, can I just ask you to introduce yourself and take it away, please?
Yes, thank you, Mukesh. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, where we're jumping from. My name is Gautam Krishna. I am part of the product management team for integration services at SAP. I'm also the global solution owner for integration services. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity for coming here and present our strategic integration platform as a service that we offer today. And I hope to give you information that will help you to get started with Integration Suite, and also for the people who have been with SAP's integration software for a while now. Also give you an indicator of what is the next 5 to 10 years, let's say, or even longer than that. Okay, let me get started. Mandatory disclaimers as always, and moving on, what I wanted to basically start with was a little bit of a refresher on the memory, right? So SAP has been in the integration business for a long time, and this slide is basically an indicator of how we as a company have moved from one product to another, right? So we started with the exchange infrastructure, and I'm sure probably there are some people who have worked with that as well, and slowly evolved. So till process orchestration, we were predominantly an on-prem software, right? So which means these were services or basically a software stack that can be deployed on your on-prem landscape. And then with HANA Cloud integration, we took the first step towards the cloud. This was our first cloud service, and then which evolved into SAP Cloud Platform Integration. So these were based on SAP's business technology platform, right, which was our PaaS offering. And now, ever since 2020, we have offered a new and improved version of the integration software called as SAP Integration Suite. So essentially, this is the latest and the greatest integration service that we have on the market. It contains all the innovations, and it's a culmination of all the feedback and the learnings that we have had over the past few years, with the past couple of decades, I would say, in integration software business, right? So this particular service has a lot of simplification in terms of procurement and licensing, and also in terms of user experience and feature set as well. So you will see that during the course of the session as to how this has evolved. Especially if you've been with SAP for a long time, you'll really appreciate the progress that we have made over the past few years. Recognizing this particular move, or let's say the steps that we have taken and how the service has evolved over the past few years, Gartner has ranked us as a leader in the Magic Quadrant in 2023 as well. This is the third time in a row that we have been ranked as a leader, which I think is a very good shot in the arm for us as the software vendor, but also a very good proof point for you as customers to see that even leading analysts in the market consider us as one of the leaders, which means you can use that as a justification point, and with a fair degree of confidence you can start using the software, right? Because if you also see this particular Magic Quadrant on the screen, you can see there are very good vendors, top vendors, some of them competitors, many of them competitors, I would have to say, right? And we definitely outranked most of the leading competitors, right? So this is something of a proof point, and the biggest value prop of this particular this particular recognition that we have received is that this is based on feedback from our users, right? So it's called Gartner peer review, which means customers of our service are asked to rate our platform on a few parameters, right? On a set of parameters, and they take those ratings and then decide upon these ranks. So because it's based on customer feedback, we believe it's even extremely valuable because our customers believe in us, right? And yeah, it's also a very good indicator of where we are in the market. Now, diving into Integration Suite, what are the competitive differentiators, right? So how do we stand apart from the rest? So if you look at all the other vendors on the market, what are the different aspects, or what are the key areas in which we shine through? And here, there are quite a few things if we dive into the details, and I'll touch upon them briefly as I go along the session. But by and large, if I have to really highlight the top three competitive differentiators, right? These are the ones that you see on the slide here. So the first one is integrate everything, which means there is no restriction in terms of something that you cannot integrate, right? So what we want to say is we want to offer integrations to almost all systems, right? So we have connectors for 250 plus systems. You can integrate applications, you can integrate backend systems, on-prem, cloud, IoT devices, whatever it is. Integration Suite has the capability to integrate with, right? And I think Mukesh also pointed out that in the beginning of the session, the intelligent enterprise is all about integrating everything, right? So if you look at a process chain and a value chain from an end-to-end perspective, there are different things that need to be integrated, right? Not only the business systems, but also the other end user systems, mobile apps, devices, like I told you, manufacturing units, anything and everything Integration Suite can support it, right? And the second competitive differentiator is also a big one, is to accelerate connectivity, which means we don't want you as a user to spend a lot of time in just implementing integrations, right? So for which we offer a lot of prepackaged content. So there are more than 3,200 integration packages that are already available on the Business Accelerator Hub. And the service is also designed in such a way that you don't have to spend a lot of time building, writing code, building these integration scenarios. So we are more of a, low code, we have a low code approach to developing your integration scenarios, which also you'll see in the demo if the time permits. And we want you to go live as soon as possible. So the time to value should be as less as possible, so that will effectively translate into cost savings for you, right? And the last one is to have overall connectivity with automated processes, right? So which means we will support other new integration patterns such as event-driven integrations, right? Asynchronous integration, API-led integration. So all these things are also supported. These are all the latest trends in the market. So especially event-driven integration is making a big splash over the past year or so, and it will continue to evolve in the next couple of years as well. And I'm happy to say that we are already there in terms of supporting these kind of integration patterns as well. We have the services in our capability set to do this. So diving into the specifics of what SAP Integration Suite is, right? So this is a image that will give you an indicator of, excuse me, that will give you an indicator of what exactly is included in Integration Suite. Starting from the top, we have the Business Accelerator Hub. This is where I said you have all the prepackaged integration content that's available for integration. So there are more than 3,200 packages overall, 3,700 plus APIs, and a lot more content that comes there, right? So not only from SAP, but also we have content from our partners, we have content from community. So it's only growing with time, and it will continue to grow because this is an area of invest for us as not only the integration business unit of SAP, but as SAP as a whole, right? Even our LOB solutions, like if you like Tech S4HANA or SuccessFactors, all these line of businesses have committed to invest in delivering more and more content on the API Business Accelerator Hub, right? And then we have cloud integration. So if you go back to the image that I was showing you earlier of the evolution, this is nothing but the HANA cloud integration or the cloud platform integration capability that has been further enhanced, right, with a lot more features and functionality. And now it's called cloud integration, and it's included as a capability of SAP Integration Suite. So this is where the heart of Integration Suite is, I would say, where all the process integration implementation happens. This contains all the connectors, all the pipeline steps, and so on and so forth. It's again a low to medium code approach to implementing your integration scenarios, right? And this is where you copy the 3,200 plus pre-built integrations that are available on the Business Accelerator Hub, configure and deploy them as well. Then we have two other capabilities, API management and graph. So API management, as the name suggests, is a full lifecycle API management capability where you can basically register, protect, which means build a proxy on top of, right? And also monitor all the APIs that are available for your organization. It also includes a capability called API Business Hub Enterprise, which I'll talk about in a little bit. With API management, we also have a capability called SAP Graph. This is our attempt to offer a Graph API, which is basically an abstraction layer, or let's say a single point of entry for all the different other backend APIs that you have, right? I'll introduce you to this also in a little more detail. Integration Advisor and Trading Partner Management are capabilities specifically intended for B2B scenarios and AI-based integration, right? Which means Integration Advisor will allow you to develop these interface specifications, right, based on the B2B type systems that are available. And it also leverages our AI-based knowledge graph that's available to give you intelligent proposals in terms of how you can build out your interface specification. You can create artifacts called MIGs and MAX. Again, I'll talk about it in a little more detail in the specific slide. Trading partner management, for people who are familiar with PO, I'm sure this is a familiar name. This is essentially to manage your scenarios that are specific to your business partners. Then we have open connectors. This is specifically for non-SAP connectivity. It contains 170 plus connectors to non-SAP applications. The advantage of this open connectors capability is that it offers one endpoint for all the different non-SAP connectors you have, because all these connectors technically leverage the REST APIs for the service providers, right? Whether it's Slack, Workforce, Workday, ServiceNow, Facebook, Twitter, DocuSign, whatever it is, it uses the REST APIs that they provide. So you have one endpoint through which you can call all these different non-SAP applications, which is definitely a benefit from a development standpoint. Then we have integration assessment. This capability is essentially intended to help you develop or craft an integration strategy for your organization. So a strategy is very important because it really helps you to plan what are the next steps in your integration implementation journey. So how do you implement integration? What is the best way to do it? How do you do it in a way which will offer you the best, the least TCO, total cost of ownership, right, and the best value for money, and also in the least amount of time. So all these aspects are really important, and at the same time, there are also technical aspects that come into play, right? So which applications can be integrated, how to use it, which are the ones which I can, include in the overall end-to-end process flow. So there are multiple nuances that come into picture, and integration assessment essentially is gives you like a tool-based approach to this integration strategy development, right? I'll give you specific tangible recommendations. Migration assessment is the capability that is specifically intended to help customers migrate from PO to integration suite, right? So I'm sure there are a lot of PO customers here, and if you already want something of a good indicator as to what your effort investment will be for migration, you can use the migration assessment capability. It will basically pull metadata from your PO system. Of course, no confidential data is fetched, only the metadata is pulled, and it'll assign t-shirt sizes for each of the interfaces and scenarios, right? So you can see what is the amount of effort that is required for each of these scenarios, and use that as a basis to plan your project, the migration project. Next, we have Event Mesh, and full disclosure, as of today, if you try this today, Event Mesh is available as a separate service on the CPEA or the pay-as-you-go price list. But we have a roadmap item later in the year or early next year where Event Mesh will also be included as a capability of SAP Integration Suite. So this will be a part of the editions, some of the editions of Integration Suite, but it's a roadmap item. But as of today, it's still available as a standalone service. You can still subscribe to it. It's not very expensive, and there is still a lot of harmony with Integration Suite that you can leverage. This is basically an event broker that will help you to orchestrate events from the event producer to the event consumers. It supports what is called as a pub sub pattern, right? So when the event publisher sends an event, you have different subscribers, right, who are interested in that event. You can propagate these events to all these different subscribers, and there are certain other features that are included, like queuing, retries, error handling, and stuff like that. All of these come in Event Mesh. And last but not the least, we have the Edge integration cell. This will be GA hopefully by end of this year, late Q4 2023. This is a containerized integration runtime that can be deployed on the landscape of your choice, right? Whether it's your on-prem landscape, whether it's your private cloud landscape, or whatever, essentially it should be a Kubernetes-based infrastructure, right? So on a platform, even on your laptop, you can deploy this integration cell and run it. The advantage of having this containerized runtime is that you can ensure data is within the premises of your DMZ, right? Whatever your DMZ is, you can ensure that data doesn't leave that, even though you're using a public cloud service like SAP Integration Suite. So the design and monitoring happens on the cloud. Everything is controlled on the cloud, but the runtime where the actual data processing happens, right? It's in the area, in the preferred, restricted area of your choice, which means you get all the cloud qualities, right? Like a service-based offering, regular updates, maintenance, and stuff like that, with the benefit of having an on-prem software where you also have a strong level of control over the data residency, right? So you can ensure that data is within the area that is recommended by your organization's security guidelines. And to round off the big picture on Integration Suite, we are available on all the leading hyperscalers, right? Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud Platform. Also in China region, we are available on Alibaba Cloud as well. So you can choose the hyperscaler of your choice depending on your organization's hyperscaler strategy. Like, for example, if you as a company have decided to go all in on Azure and say you deploy everything on Azure Private Cloud, for example, you can choose to have Integration Suite also deployed on Azure so that you have that consistency and parity across all your different offerings. Now let's go into a little more details here. I'll start with the API business, the Business Accelerator Hub, right? And I keep saying API Business Hub. I'm sorry for that because that was the old name and we've been saying it for such a long time. So, but Business Accelerator Hub is the new name. But the URL is very easy to remember: api.sap.com. That's a public catalog. You don't need any special access or anything like that. You can just access it. Go even now. You can try it out. It contains all the different integration packages, APIs, business processes, events that are available. You can even try out the APIs. For example, you can see the different integration flows, actual steps that are involved, right? And it's not only limited to SAP systems. So that's the most important point that I wanted to highlight here. So a Business Accelerator Hub also contains content that is specific or that is related to non-SAP systems as well. And an interesting factoid for you is that more than 70% of the integration scenarios that are deployed on Integration Suite as of today are to non-SAP systems, right? So that really shows you how our customers are using it. Of course, you will find a lot of SAP specific content as well, because that is our, our organization's, core business, right? So it's easy for us to put that content out there, but it's not an indicator that, we're not focused on non-SAP integration. So Integration Suite as a service has been designed as a general purpose middleware, which means it can be used for both SAP and non-SAP systems, right? And like I said, 3200 plus pre-built integrations and these e-document compliance scenarios, right, are very popular, which means whichever country the business has a presence in, you will have some regulations that you need to comply with, right? So with Integration Suite, this is easy. And most importantly, this is available at no extra cost and it's maintained. What I mean by maintenance is that in case there is any change in the process or in the data model or in the way the compliance is executed, all these updates are automatically made by the document compliance team and also any other team that owns the content on the Business Accelerator Hub, right? Any changes that need to happen, whether it's a critical change or a nice to have change, this will be implemented by the content owners and you can consume them seamlessly, which means you will get a notification telling there is an update that's available. You just click on that button, consume the update, and you're good to go. So this kind of a maintenance activity also is a value add for you when you're using content from the Business Accelerator. And very quickly, some indicators as to how this helps, right? A normalized number that you see on the screen when we interviewed a lot of customers and partners who are using it. So typically they report 5 times acceleration and 10 times savings, which means you can get your project done in 1/5 of the time and 1/10 of the cost, right? So which is quite significant in the larger scheme of things if you really look at it. And there are customers who have also reported more, right? Because it all depends on how what your scenario is, what your requirement is, and how you choose to implement it. And certain customer proof points, just for your reference, again, you can explore this in a lot more detail because the links are available on the slide here. But you can already see how customers have benefited from SAP Integration Suite. Like Comax is one very interesting use case where they actually went live across 6 different sites across the globe in the COVID-19 pandemic. So even with all the restrictions that were there, Comax managed to achieve this, which is, I would really encourage you to please explore this use case, right? And Toyota, leading automotive manufacturer, right, reported 50% reduction in integration costs, which is, again, a significant savings, not a small number. LCOP is one of our heavy users, right? So you can see 5 million messages per day processed on cloud integration and 50 million API calls per month, right? Amstai was one customer who migrated from PO to Integration Suite without any downtime. So they managed to do it in a few weeks and all interfaces were migrated from PO to Integration Suite without any downtime, which is quite commendable. So just take a look at it, and there is more information in that particular portal. If you click on this customer stories link, right, you will also see that there are more customer stories that you can explore. Okay, now let's go into integration suite's capabilities, right? So typically, if you're looking at a middleware, right, what is the first thing that we'll evaluate? So if I am an integration, if I'm a CIO of an organization and ask the team, okay, I need to evaluate integration platforms. So the first and the most critical aspect is the connectivity, right? And that is where we really shine through. Right, so there is a very comprehensive set of connectivity options that is available with SAP Integration Suite, and of course, it spans across a couple of capabilities, right? Cloud integration and open connectors mainly, and you can see that there are a list of adapters and connectors that are available. So we have categorized the available adapters into two categories. One is the open spec based adapters, and the second one is application specific connector. So I use adapters and connectors interchangeably, so it's more or less the same. So open spec meaning that these are based on the protocols that are being used, right? Whether it's HTTPS, FTP, SOAP, OData, REST, JDBC, AMQP, whatever it is. And then there are certain application specific connectors. Here, these are also leveraging the same kind of protocols, right? It's not that it's something completely different, but there are a lot of application specific properties that are available, whether it's either Salesforce or SuccessFactors or Ariba or Microsoft Dynamics. So the platform or the vendor offers some specific parameters that you can leverage to make your integration a lot more efficient and better, right? So these different connectors offer you these parameters to be configured in the adapter configuration itself, which is a very huge advantage to have as an integration developers. You can explore these in the details. The product documentation is again linked here, right? And open connectors, I already spoke about it, 170 plus connectors that are available out of the box for different non-SAP systems. So you can also have interoperability between open connectors and cloud integration. So here you can use an open connectors connectivity option in a cloud integration iFlow. That's what I mean. And there is an open connectors adapter that is available for that as well. So again, because it's a suite, interoperability is always very good. So you can leverage that. In addition to this, we also have a set of adapters that are developed by partners, right? So some are free, some are available at a certain cost. You can check this out again in the Business Accelerator Hub. And I think you can also purchase this if it's a paid version on the SAP store as well. And if all these options do not meet your requirement and you have something very niche that you have to implement, there is also something called as an adapter development kit. This is essentially a wizard-based approach to developing your own adapter, right? The framework will help you to, actually, it's quite simple and easy to use. So if you have a very niche protocol or some kind of specific requirement where you have to develop your own in-house adapter, you can also do this. And if you're a partner, you can also get this certified and put it on the SAP store and monetize it as well. So there's a certification framework that's available as well. So please take a look at that. Now let's dive into the capabilities in a lot more detail, starting with cloud integration, right?
Gautam, can you hear us? You seem to have frozen.
Yeah, I think he has some internet issue.
Very long time.
Okay, he's back. Gautam, in between, like your screen was frozen.
Did you get the whole connectivity option part, or?
Yeah.
Yes. Just start with the current the cloud connector
development. Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry for that. I think the internet is fine. Okay. Anyways, With cloud integration, I think this is the capability that many of you will be very familiar with because it's been around for a longest amount of time. This was available again as a standalone service earlier, but now it's a part of Integration Suite. This is essentially where you build your integration steps and pipelines, right? So when you want to integrate between two systems, let's say Salesforce and S4HANA, for example, uh, you have the connectors that I showed you in the previous slide, and then the pipeline steps, right? So by pipeline steps, what I mean is the mapping, the message transformation, any other transformations that you need to do, encryptors, decryptors, message routing steps, some sort of retry steps, some sort of external call, so that you pull or you pull more data into the integration pipeline to further enhance your payload. All of this is available in cloud integration. This again follows a low to medium code approach, right? Which means typically we start with a low code approach. As an integration developer, you get a graphical user interface where you can just start building your integration flow through a drag and drop based approach and just use lines to connect the different pipeline steps. And if you are also pro code, which means you like to write Groovy or Java scripts, right? There's also a script step that is available which can help you do very specific operations. So essentially whatever script that you write there, it will be executed in the script step. And all the integration packages that are available on the business accelerator hub, right? That is also available within the cloud integration tool itself, where you can copy the integration packs and start using them very quickly. Then we come to the API management capability, which was also again available as a standalone service. It's now deprecated and part of the integration suite. As the name suggests, it's a governance layer for all the different APIs of your organization, right? So the advantage here is that when you start creating a lot of APIs, right? So when you go for a digital approach or a digital transformation for your organization, of course, APIs would be the leading choice for exposing data to different use cases and requirements, right? Whether you want to build an app for your vendors, for your partners, for your customers, for your internal developer ecosystem. So all these APIs over a period of time become so much that it's very difficult to manage. And each of them is a ingress point for your landscape, right? Which means it's a potential security risk. And it's important that you keep an eye on all these different APIs. And that's what API management helps you to do in a very easy manner, right? So not only you can manage your APIs, which means you can create a proxy. A proxy essentially is basically hiding the actual URL and creating a dummy URL on top of it, which kind of ensures that the actual domain name is not exposed to the person who's trying to access this API, right? On top of that, you can also add something called as policy templates, which are essentially an easy way of controlling the API. So for example, let's say you want to throttle your APIs to say, I should not get more than 100 calls in a minute, right? So there is a policy template that's available. You can apply on top of your APIs and ensure that everything from the 101st call is prevented. So this is your way of preventing overloading of your backend systems, right? Because typically when you do an API call, it always impacts the system that is actually hosting the API. And if let's say there are millions of calls, so let's say there is a brute force attack, for example, where there is a huge volume of requests that keep coming in. So these kind of things can be protected. And with API management, we also offer these guidelines for security best practices, right? So there's a detailed documentation on that, which also leverages existing policy templates and also the API management capability. So you can ensure that all your security best practices are in place and all your APIs are secured in an enterprise grade manner, right? And there is also very powerful analytics features that are available with API management. You can see how your different APIs are doing, if there are any issues, and you can also see if there are any unused APIs. You can think about a deprecation strategy as well. And lastly, you can also monitor or monetize these APIs, which means if you want to charge someone to use your APIs, you can achieve that through the API management capability as well. Specifically on B2B, like I told you, we have integration advisor and trading partner management. These leverage our knowledge graph. It's an AI and ML based tool. So we based on the experience that we have and also the specific training that we have given to these knowledge graphs, right? Integration advisor will ask you to provide some business context. So let's say you are automotive customer based out of the Europe, EMEA North region, right? And your trading partner is probably again an automotive customer based out of the Asia Pacific region, right? And then you can also add some more business context information, right? So you're using AS12 or EDIFACT type systems, for example, right? And you input all these parameters into integration advisor, and based on the input that you have provided, it will give you something called as a proposal. A proposal is an indicator of the likelihood in which you would use a particular field. So if you're familiar with B2B type systems, you will know that each of these message templates, right, will have potentially thousands of fields actually. And if you have to basically spend an effort manually qualifying all these fields and also writing documentation for it, right? Because if you want to reuse this across your organization, it's not that everyone will be familiar with it. You also have to document how you have build this interface specification. So this approach integration advisor simplifies through the proposals and also the built-in documentation approach as well, right? And the more you use integration advisor, the better it gets. So maybe in the first time, you will see that the proposal confidence levels are maybe 80 to 90%, but maybe 6 months down the line, when you've provided so much input and integration advisor has understood the way you build the interfaces, right? Then the confidence level can be as high as 95 to 99% as well. And trading partner management is again for maintaining B2B scenarios specifically. Depending on the agreements that you have with different trading partners, you can have partner profiles, and you can also monitor scenarios that are specific to these partners. And it also supports integration with your partner directory as well. And of course, cloud integration kind of plays a role in this, because that is the capability where you have the actual integration flow that is running, right? So that also comes into play here. But overall, trading partner management works in conjunction with cloud integration and integration advisor to help you implement B2B scenario. Okay, moving on. The newest capability on the block, which is Graph, right? So some of you might have already noticed the announcement that came maybe a month or a month and a half ago, right? Where Graph was released as a part of the API management capability. So I'm sure you might be familiar with the concept of a Graph API, right? But essentially, it's a single point of access to all the different APIs that are available on the on your landscape, right? So if you have 10 different systems, to ease the complexity of calling 10 different APIs, and also to have some sort of a inter relationship between these different API objects that are supported, or API resources, we have the Graph API, right? So here in the Graph capability, you can build something called as BDGs, or business data graphs. These artifacts will help you to connect the different parts of your different APIs that are available on your backend system, right, with one single point of access. And this makes the activity of building extension apps or even integration very easy as well. So developers really benefit from it. And from a governance perspective as well, data models is the data model creation is very much simplified. You have just one enterprise graph that you can use, right? Open connectors, like I said, is specifically for non-SAP connectivity. A lot of pre-built connectors that are available out of the box. Like I said, if you have multiple connector instances for non-SAP systems, like let's take an example based on what you see on the screen. So if you have a Slack connector, a Facebook connector, Twitter, and let's say HubSpot, right? So if you have 4 different connectors, there are already 4 endpoints or 4 different APIs that you need to deal with. With open connectors, you just have one endpoint and 4 connector instances. And all of these APIs are all the API documentation is displayed to you in a harmonized manner, which means the user experience of all the different API documentation is also the same. I can show you that in the demo part as well, where you will really appreciate how easy it is to find the specific resource that you want to call and what the expected response of those resources would be as well. So this will give you a very good idea as a developer to see how the API responds. With integration assessment, what you can do is create your own integration strategy. And like I said, it will give you very tangible action items on how or recommendations on how you can cover your integration scenarios, right? And this is really important. And another important point of this particular capability is that it's not limited to SAP technology recommendations, but even third-party application technology can also be included here. So this means it's not a closed ecosystem that we are promoting. Of course, using SAP software is always recommended. It's in line with SAP best practices as well. But by and large, we understand that, okay, there will be third-party systems also in play, which is non-SAP systems, and we want to ensure that we offer an integration platform that also encompasses and includes those third-party systems as well, right? And having a very good integration strategy is very important to ensure that any extensions and any partner adoptions that you do, all those things can happen very seamlessly, because you know when something new comes in, how you want to integrate it as well. So that is what integration assessment will help you with. With event mesh, like I told you, it supports asynchronous event communication. So whenever there is a change, and this is, not necessarily very new, but also not very widely adopted as well, for example. So in case there is a change, typically what we would do earlier was that we would poll for what has been changed, let's say in the past 30 minutes, past 60 minutes, past 24 hours, some sort of a time frame we would have, and then we would poll for whatever are the changes. But now with events, what you can get is, in case there is a change that happens, let's say in an S4 HANA system, right? Like business partner data has been modified. So S4 HANA will trigger an event and say business partners. So there are 2 types of events, basically notification and data events. So when S4 HANA says that a business partner of ID, XX has been modified, this is a notification event. It's basically telling you that there has been a change that happens. And then there is a data event where S4 HANA will say business partner of XX and the last name and the address has been changed. So this also contains the information on what has been changed as well. So with this, what you get is, whenever there is a change, you get information in real time that, okay, this change has happened, and you can propagate it to all the other parts of your landscape which are interested in this change. So with event-based approach, what you essentially get is an ability to build a real-time ecosystem, right? So for example, if another very interesting example is through your cars, right? So many of the cars come with connected technology. So all of these are events essentially, right? So whenever there is a notification, like whenever there is, for example, low fuel, right, you will get an alert into your phone telling your car has low fuel. Or if you have defined an geographical area after which the car should not go out, if it goes out of that particular boundary that you have set in the app, it'll show you, okay, the car has went out of this, because it's constantly reading where the situation or where the location of the car is, and when the location changes from the parameters that you have defined, it will give you an alert. So this is what eventing will help you to do. And this is evolving, right? So in event-driven integration processes, Integration Suite will act as the event consumer, and then it will propagate it to the other systems which are interested in these events. And we support all the open asynchronous message protocols, MQTT, REST, webhooks, AMQP as well, right? And it essentially will ensure that you have reliable transmission of the events across your subscription landscape, right? So, which means if there is system A, and if there are 10 different systems that are interested in this particular change, any change that happens in system A, all of that can be configured in SAP Event Mesh. With SAP Event Mesh, what you get is a multi-tenant application, right? Which means there are certain barriers up to which you can do it. And when you're dealing with really high volume of events, right? So for example, I was telling you about events that are generated in a manufacturing plant, right? Like sensor data, it can potentially be hundreds of thousands of events that are generated on every hourly basis. And for this, we have a different service called SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh. So with the difference between event mesh and advanced event mesh, in a nutshell, is that with advanced event mesh, you get dedicated brokers, which means each broker with a specific set of resources are assigned to that particular broker, unlike event mesh, which is a multi-tenant application, right? And the second advantage that you get is you can deploy these brokers on the location of your choice. So which means you can use it on the public cloud as natively supported, or you can also deploy it in your private regions or your on-prem regions as well. So for example, like I told you, how you can monitor events from a manufacturing plant, right? So if you deploy this within the premises of this manufacturing plant, you can ensure that you get real-time events, because another feature that is offered with advanced event mesh is a mesh architecture, right? So which means if there is an event that is generated in the APJ or India region, and then you want the same event to be available instantly for someone who's running data analytics in Europe, for example, that can be supported. And this is exactly what this image is showing, right? So when you build a mesh architecture, you have real-time availability of the events across the globe. So not only in one location, but you can have it across the globe, right? So there are a lot of advantages of having a global event mesh like this, and also having dedicated brokers. And it also gets a lot more sophisticated event management features like advanced filtering, for example. So for, let's say, an event is generated in a specific time frame, you want to send it to one location. If it's generated in other time frame, you want to send it to other locations. So these kind of things can be done. You can replay events in case you miss it. Okay. And there is something called as distributed tracing as well, where you can actually trace the path of an event from where it originated and where it is ending out. So there's a job that you can run in advanced event mesh, which will basically trace this and give you a path of transit, essentially. So this is advanced event mesh, and from a commercial perspective, this is not actually included in the integration suite license. Okay, so this is available as a separate service, but it still is branded under the integration suite umbrella, because there is a lot of harmony between integration suite and advanced event mesh, right? So this is recommended for customers who have very mature eventing use cases, where there is a requirement to have a high volume of events, and also all these sophisticated features that you need to make sure that event is tracked and managed properly. So if you have these kind of requirements, Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh is the service for you to use. Okay, with that, let me jump into a quick demo of Integration Suite. Right, so
before you do that, I think there is a question on the chat, which is something that you touched upon briefly. How can we move our PI/PO integration to SAP CPI?
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. This is something that we definitely support. There is a activity called as SAP Migration Factory, you can go on the sap.com website and even contact this expert work group as well. And if you go back to my presentation, you can recollect that I showed you a capability called migration assessment, right? So that will show you how you can migrate from PIPO to Integration Suite and what is the effort that it will take for you. So if I have to speak about it so that in itself can be a session, right? So a longer session, but I'll try to cover this in 1 or 2 minutes. When you move from PO to Integration Suite, you have to consider this as a transformation journey. So what I mean by transformation is that I understand that it's ideal if we lift and shift everything from PO into Integration Suite, but that might not be the best approach from in the long run, right? Because it's always important that you also adopt the latest integration implementation guidelines. And here we have something called as enterprise integration guidelines, right? So what we try to do in this migration activity is that we ensure that there is a high level of reuse as much as possible, right? But there are certain areas that you will have to refactor, a few for technical reasons, but a few for your benefit as well, right? Like, for example, event-driven integration patterns. If you see an opportunity to implement this, then it's always good to do that because you have a modern approach. So I mean, there are a lot of webinars and enablement that keeps happening on the PIPO part as well. So you can contact the expert work group or just write a mail to me. I can connect you to this group as well. And they'll give you a lot more details on how to migrate from PO to Integration Suite. I also see there's a question on migrating from Neo to Integration Suite as well. So this is also a migration that we support, and here it's a lot more straightforward because both are cloud-based services, right? So we have a migration methodology here as well, and we have migration tooling or accelerator. So for example, what you have is a Postman collection that can basically take all your artifacts from the Neo landscape and put it on the Cloud Foundry landscape, right? And then there is the migration itself is very simple, which means you move everything that's available and everything possible. So for example, security artifacts cannot be moved from Neo to Cloud Foundry directly. You have to recreate them for obvious, security related constraints, right? And then the major part of your effort when moving from Neo to Cloud Foundry is focused on testing, right? So what you will do is once you have moved everything onto Integration Suite, you will have to test the scenarios, right? So that is what will take the large amount of time. Typically, customers take 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the complexity. Of course, there are customers who also take a longer amount of time, but 2 to 6 weeks is the average time taken for migration from Neo to Cloud Foundry. Okay. I don't see any other questions, so I will go into the demo part, and then we can also take few other questions, and I will also give you a link to some resources.
One question is that if we are using the custom adapter, then how we handle those things in this moment?
Custom adapter in Neo or in PO?
On PO also and Neo also.
Yeah, so custom adapter, maybe you can think about the target state, right? So for example, if you want to implement the same thing in the cloud, you can look at all the different connectors that are available for us. And if you see that there are no connectors that can suit your requirement, then you also have the option of creating this custom adapter using the adapter development kit. So these are the two options. But what I can tell you is that a lot of customers who had custom adapters in the past tend to move over into more standardized open protocols, right? Like OData or SOAP or even REST for that matter. And they use the specific connectors that are available. So when we go into the details of the migration, we can evaluate what is the best option for you.
Sir, can we deploy a Java Web Service in CPI?
I mean, you cannot deploy a Java service per se on CPI because the concept is slightly different, right? In CPI, we have this concept of integration flows. So you can write a Java script, for example, and also in mapping, you can have Java functions, but the Java service deployment itself is not supported. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, colleagues. So when you look at moving from PO to integration suite, do not think of it as a lift and shift. So Java-based service was a concept that you use on PO. Now, maybe in integration suite, what you can do instead is to create a OData API or a REST API, right? So you can use that as the interface instead of using a Java-based service. So these are some shifts in the approach or the mindset that you will have to make when you move to the cloud. And this is actually beneficial for you in the long run. I know initially it feels a little daunting, but in the long run, it's important that you also adopt modern best practices so that you get the best out of your integration scenarios as well in terms of throughput and performance.
Okay. Suppose we have used, but how to convert in Java service to CPI services? And any
So
challenge?
what is this Java service doing? Please tell me.
Suppose we have created one Azure adapter, okay, and deploy in POPI. So in CPI, suppose we move to CPI. So how to convert in CPI web services? Any challenges there is?
We have a Azure adapter that's available in CPI. You can directly use that and call the Azure APIs that they provide, right? So that is how simple it is. You don't have to basically move over the custom adapter that you created on PIPO.
And some case we have used Java mapping.
I think Java mapping is supported or it's in the roadmap. I'm not 100% sure. I can get back to you on that. You can just drop me an email and I can confirm this, but Java mapping should be supported. Because essentially CPI and PO have the same mapping engine. So that's the rationale.
So you can see there's another question on the chat regarding the downtime. So what could generally be the downtime needed when we are migrating from PIPO to SAP CPI? And what could affect the current implementation that is running?
So typically we refer or we recommend what is called as a side-by-side migration, right? So which means we try to, you try to plan it out in a way that there is as minimal downtime as possible. And I showed you the Amsty customer use case as well, right? Where they did a migration without any downtime. It was zero downtime and they migrated all the interfaces that they had. So you can do that ideally. But yeah, because of this side-by-side migration approach, you can ensure that there is minimal impact in terms of downtime. It's very hard to tell how much, if you ask me how much downtime will I have, because I don't have a number. That is can be anything from 0 to, you know, in case there are, I mean, not that it should, but in case there are any critical issues that happen, there might be a little more downtime as well. So it's very hard for me to say at this point of time how much downtime you will have. Ideally, our approach recommends a zero downtime migration approach.
Okay, if I for the authentication point of view, what are the authentication mechanism it is supported? That's the OAuth and all these things.
On integration suite, you mean?
Yes, I am talking for integration suite only.
Yes, OAuth is supported, certificate-based authentication. Basic auth is also supported, although we don't recommend it. But OAuth is also supported. So you have all the different mechanisms, and you can actually get a lot of details in our official documentation. If you just go to help.sap.com and search for integration suite, you will get all these details.
In both a sender and receiver channel supported. Yeah, and also store token in POPI. Any generated token, authentication token.
You mean reuse of the token from PIPO in integration suite?
Yes, reuse.
No, you will have to establish trust between integration suite and the intended receiver system. So the token is very specific to the two systems that have handshake, right? So we cannot say that I can reuse the token across different systems. So that is not possible.
Oh.
There is also another question from Harkesh. Sorry, go on.
Yes, I was saying that if I have the two APIs, but I want to give the opportunity of first API to one person, second API to second person only. And each other cannot access that API. Can we
Yeah.
do that in this?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. It's definitely possible with API management. You can create a proxy and have user specific access for each of these APIs. That is
Yeah,
definitely
I'm
possible.
talking with integration suite CPI. We can we do that or we go for the API management only? I'm talking for the integration suite only with CPI, because I have exposed this CPI link to publicly that
Mhm.
but that link that API one person can use if I have given the for customer API to that customer that API can use.
Yes, you can implement that as well. I mean, you have to basically design this iFlow in such a way that the access is controlled, but it is definitely possible.
And you are saying that we have to make this mechanism in the iFlow only. With the authentication point of view, we cannot do that thing. Because I think there is a ESB message send that the one role we have to give for the to access the API. But if I want to restrict the user
Mhm.
wise, if I have given the two API to for two persons, like but both are their ESP message send is available given the both the users. I can make them different users for
So
that.
why would you go through CPI for this if you already have the APIs? Why not directly control the access through the API management layer? I think that will be simpler, right?
Okay, you are saying that if I am using the API, then we
Yeah.
use the API, or we if we have the you can say. But one more thing that you are the one person, I am the one person. You can access the vendor data only. I can access the customer data only. But
Mhm.
the when the call will come from the same user only, because I
Mhm.
think as by my understanding we cannot configure the user that is connected with the CPI to with the SAP, that we cannot restrict that thing. uh, how you handle that there? Because from the call is coming from the integration user only.
Okay.
uh, then how we
Wha-
handle that thing?
What is the key for determining which data to give access to this particular user? It's a
That
user ID.
just how we can do if there is one way that we get the user ID from there from the payload only, and
Mhm.
with that we differentiate here, and we can do that thing. That is some alternative mechanism we can do. But just like in SAP, if I have the authorization for customer, I cannot access the vendor. That is some T code ways that we can authenticate. Can we do the same thing from the CPI also?
I mean, yes, you can set some based on some default authorization permissions, right? You can definitely set these restrictions as well. But like I asked you, it's about what is the data that identifies whether it's a vendor or a customer, right? So whether this person has a yes user or something like that, right? So based on that, we can write the logic. Again, it's all very flexible. You can implement whatever you want. It's just about how you choose to implement it. That's all.
But I think we have given them to the OAuth user. If we are using OAuth, then we have given that. I'm talking for the API point of view, not the portal access. I'm talking for the API point of view. APIs we have given the OAuth user, both the persons, you and me. That how we handle.
But why would you give both the users the same level of OAuth access? Because then you can actually have different. There is a
Okay,
concept of a service instance and a service key, right?
you are
So
saying that
yeah,
we need to create the different OAuth user.
yeah, service
Okay.
instances you can create,
So,
and based on that, the access can be controlled.
And
so just
we will give that OAuth authentication for that user only,
Yes,
that API only.
yes,
Okay,
So,
okay,
so just in
okay.
the
That
interest of time, I think let's move on, and we'll take questions again after the demo is done, so that
yeah.
we have enough time to cover the demo as well. Yeah. So Gautam, maybe you can share your screen and show us the demo. While at any, please do continue to share your questions on the chat, so we will come back to them at the end of the demo.
Yeah, I'll keep the demo short and crisp in the interest of time because this is available on the free tier as well. Certain important points that I wanted to highlight in the demo is firstly the onboarding experience, right? So this is my global account and this is my sub account. So the overall onboarding experience is also a self-service, which means you as a customer do not have to depend on SAP for onboarding here. What you have to do is go into Service Marketplace. It's a very quick demo, just to give you an impression of how to get started. And you can search for Integration Suite, which is the tile here. Because I've already created a subscription, the create button is grayed out for me. But when you do this for the first time, you will have this create button highlighted. So just click on the create button and it will create a subscription for you. Okay. Once the subscription is created, you will have to navigate into the subscription, right? And under the security, you'll also have to assign some role collections. The documentation is again available for you how to do this. It's a fairly straightforward process. And once the subscription and the role assignment is done, just launch the application. And for the first time, you will be launched into a sorry, a different one. For the first time, you will just see a blank screen where none of the capabilities will be activated. So let me do this here. And it will log in automatically. If you also have a custom IDP, identity provider that you've configured, right? It will ask you for a login as well. That is also supported. And here, this is a pop-up that basically gives you information on what has changed, what is new, and specific links for more detailed information. This is the Integration Suite home screen. And these are all the capability tiles because I've already activated them prior to this call. But for the first time, you will have this particular tile. Just click on Manage Capabilities here. And each of them will have an activate button here. Some of the capabilities also have certain parameters that you can configure. Like for cloud integration, you can choose to enable or disable message queues. For API management, you can enable or disable API business of enterprise. So these are some of the parameters that can be configured, but it's essentially a very simple action of just clicking an activate button and wait for a few minutes and the capability will get activated. So coming into the home screen of Integration Suite, this is designed to give you already a good overview of what is happening in your integration landscape. So you can see certain integration flows in whatever status that is it is there, and you can click on this and go into the detailed monitoring aspect as well. For the APIs also, you get these different statuses, and there is monitoring data. For example, I can see there are 4 errors, and I can navigate into these errors and see which iflows are in error state. Same thing goes for API traffic and API errors as well. And before going into the capabilities, something that will help you to also learn more and get familiar with Integration Suite are there's a video, some example videos as well. You can click on this and it will open a YouTube channel for the demo mini series as well, right? And there is a link to the release notes. This is the what's new section. This is the official documentation, right? Learning journey and community as well, where you can write blogs, read blogs, post questions, so on and so forth. So all this is supported. Now, these are all the different capabilities of Integration Suite. I spoke about cloud integration, API management, trading partner management, integration advisor, open connectors, right? This is integration assessment, and this is migration assessment. So all of these capabilities are represented here. You can also navigate to them through this particular tab, which is a much more easier approach because this is more based on your activity. So if you want to look at all the prepackaged content that is available for you, the discover section is the way to go. The design section is where you do the actual development activity, any configuration, customization, all these things are done here. Testing console is for API specifically, same goes for configuration, and the monitoring section is for all the different artifacts. Like there is integration, which is the iFlow monitor. The B2B scenarios is the trading partner management capability specifically for B2B monitoring, and the API monitoring as the name suggests. There's also an inspect tool, much requested, which gives you an indicator of the resource consumption for the tenants, right? So each tenant has some underlying resources that can be that will get used during this particular phase. And you can see if, for example, if the database has been used fully, or if there has been a lot of transactions that are running for a long duration of time. So all these things are indicated here. And there is a settings tab that can that is specific to each of these different capabilities. Let me just show you a quick demo of how you can copy integration packages from API Business Hub to from Business Accelerator Hub to the cloud integration. So, for example, if I want S/4HANA integration with Salesforce, right? Or let me pick something else. SAP ERP integration with Salesforce, right? And if I am interested in this particular package and the artifacts that are available here, all I have to do is click on the copy button. So once this copy is completed, I will see the same package available in the design section of my integration suite as well. So here, once this completes, so this typically takes, I mean, it happens quickly since it's a test bed. It might be a little slow depending on days. So yeah, ERP integration with Salesforce. And these are the artifacts that are available for me. Now I have two options. I can just configure and deploy it as it is available, right, in its current form, or I can also use it as a starting point for creating further, or building on top of that. So, for example, receive product availability from SAP ERP. If I want to enhance it with something else, right? So add a little more metadata to that payload, I can also do that by clicking on the edit button here. But if I just want to receive product availability from ERP, all I have to do is click on configure. I don't even have to open this iFlow view. Actually, I can go back here. I just click on configure, and the parameters are directly available for me for configuration. And then I click on deploy and it will be ready to go. So it's as simple as that. Same goes for APIs as well. So in the API management section, we have a paradigm of APIs and API products. A collection of APIs constitute an API product. And the policy templates that I was talking about are available here. This is where you can see. Basically, what I can do is I can register the applications that have these APIs, right? And then I can discover these APIs here and build a proxy on top of them with the associated policies, whether I use policy templates or create my own custom policies, both are possible. Okay, so I can create an API proxy like this. There's a possibility to create a provider or a proxy as well. And here is the discovery engine, which will basically, based on the applications that I've registered, discover all the different APIs that are available. And I can also import existing APIs. I just have to basically import a JSON or a zip file. And if you have to create an API, we also have an open API spec-based API designer that is available. You can create your own API here and deploy it as well. So that is also possible. Very quickly, going into the monitoring section, the others kind of speak for themselves. So you can also explore it. Everything is available in the free tier, which I'll also talk about in a little bit. In the interest of time, let me quickly touch upon the monitoring part. So the monitoring is where all, you can see this is integration flow monitoring essentially. So you can see there has not been any messages here. And we also allow a certain degree of customization. What I mean by that is I can click on this tile and say for a specific status in a specific time frame, and also even select some artifacts, right? So if I want to just say monitor the iflows of a specific package or a specific integration flow as well, that is also possible. Same goes with API as well. There is quite a lot of information that is available in the default view itself. And on top of that, you can also further customize it as well. So depending on your requirement, there is also an API health section specifically, which will give you impression on how the different APIs are performing. I already told you about the inspect and the other tools. The monetization tool is available here. You can create certain rate plans and assign it to APIs. So this is also possible here. Again, all of this is available on the free tier. Please feel free to register and start exploring it. It's really it's fairly straightforward and intuitive. And let me share where you can get more information on this, especially the learning material. So in terms of resources on how you can onboard to SAP Integration Suite, we have a monthly update webinar that runs every month, as the name suggests. So every last Tuesday of the month is the webinar. And there is also a newsletter that comes out on the last day of every month. This gives you all the information on the blogs, the upcoming events, etc., and also includes the recording for the webinar as well. So please feel free to register for it. It would be really nice for to have you there as well every month, because our team spends a lot of effort in curating the information to be presented in this webinar. We have a ton of open SAP courses, right? So a lot of different courses that are available. So you can take a look at them, and Open SAP is again open for everyone. So you can register with your user ID and just start exploring the different capabilities and the different courses that are available. There is a dedicated book on Integration Suite. If you're interested, you can also purchase it and read more about Integration Suite. With SAP Discovery Center, we have quite a few missions that are available related to Integration Suite. So these missions will help you to get hands-on experience with Integration Suite and also the other systems. And specifically, all of these are use case driven, which means you can definitely find something that is related to what you might be implementing in your actual day-to-day work, right? So I would encourage you strongly to explore the mission catalog in Discovery Center. And here is a collection of the links, especially the free tier and community. And also, if you want support from migrating, whether it's migration from Neo to Cloud Foundry or from PO to Integration Suite, both are included here. So just click on this link and it will give you the respective next steps that you can execute for migration. And it will put you also in touch with our core expert team as well. All right, so that was all I had to share. So now maybe we can take the rest of the questions.
Thanks. Okay. So Nipul, I think you, by joining this call, I am assuming that you already got the link from INDUS, admin@induscommunity.com. The recordings are, as I've mentioned in the chat already multiple times, are shared on the INDUS online platform that we have for BTP ambassadors as a program. All the recordings are shared there. So if you want, if you're already not part of that platform, drop me a message with your company official email ID and I'll will invite you to the platform. Gautam, you'll have to share the links with me as well so that we can also, or you can directly share the links on the platform yourself as well. There's a question from Harkesh. Yeah. So Harkesh has asked, for integration advisory, do we require any specific license or role other than the Integration Suite?
There's a role that you require, a role collection that you will have to assign, but there's no license required apart from the Integration Suite standard or premium edition license. You can just reuse it. Even the licenses for the type systems are also included in the Integration Suite license. So you don't need anything extra.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
One more thing, if I want to deploy the custom adapter, do we require any specific role or anything, or it is already available with this integration developer only?
Yeah, integration developer should be able to deploy the custom adapter as well.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone else has a question, just unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can raise your hand and I can ask the question on. I can invite you, or you can put the question on the chat and I can read it for you.
I have a question here.
Yes, please go ahead.
See, as a partner, if I have a application running on, say, Cloud Foundry, and I want to use this integration, what kind of licensing implications that have?
I mean, it's the same for everyone. You have a license for a tenant, and then there is a scaling factor called messages. So you can purchase the tenant first, and then the tenant comes with certain number of included messages. So, for example, standard edition includes 10,000 messages per month. Premium edition gives you 10 million and 4 tenants included. If you exceed this quota, you will also have to license additional messages. But apart from that, everything else remains the same, and it doesn't matter which application you integrate with or connect to. So it still remains the same.
How about the connectivity to the S4 here? What kind of license implication that has got? If I want to integrate with,
it's the same. There's no specific license implication.
All right. Do we have any collateral or anything on that which I can refer?
I mean, Discovery Center, whatever is mentioned there, it's the same. You can just go to the pricing section in Discovery Center, and it will give you the information on what exactly the licenses are.
I'm just putting the link on the chat.
Okay. Yes, I got one more thing from the licensing point of view. Is there any way that there is one more count of the hits? That is one way. It is any way that is there is no limit for the count. It will be one time cost only for yearly. Is there any licensing available, or it is a call based only?
No, it's call based only because this is a cloud subscription based service, right? So it's a call based license only. There is a default cost, and then there is a scaling cost that is included. But yeah, this is what is available.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question on the chat. Can ECC 6 on-prem use this tool?
Use such functionality. I mean, if you mean, can we integrate with ECC 6 on-prem? Yes, it is possible. Yeah. But if there is something detailed, maybe Shailesh, you can add more context and I can give you the answer.
Okay, so maybe it might be a good idea for Bhavesh, if you can share the program in terms of what's the next step from that point of view. Is it possible, Bhavesh?
Yeah, sure, Mukesh. Just give me a second. Let me share my screen. If there are no questions. So we are asking for nominations. So those who raise a question and those who are already having some kind of a use cases in mind, not only for the integration, but in general for the BTP platform, feel free to nominate your use case. Let me send you first the link, or Mukesh will send the link. Just give me, allow me to share my screen. Yeah. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we are requesting to have those nominations. So all we need to have is like you can provide your company name, your address, your full name, your contact details, whether you are currently using BTP for any of those use cases for application development, automation, or integration, or any other use cases, and you have those expertise or not. If you are not using, absolutely fine. If you don't have expertise, that's fine. But if you have really a business challenge which you want to try and address through BTP, please feel free to reach out to us. our team is already there to support you, guide you, and bring you through those use cases through BTP to address those challenges. And there is a link available here. When you click on that, there is a link available that will give you the link for those BTP use case submission. Here is the deck where you can submit your use case, send it to that submit through our INDUS platform. And we will be more than happy to review that. We will more than happy to guide you and select that. And there is also a larger program where you will get a chance to present it to INDUS Summit. You will also get selected and present to the INDUS board member as well. So that is a program which we are having. Feel free to nominate whatever the number of use cases you have. Not sure whether we can address and answer all those requirements, but definitely we will be selecting a few which are more challenging, and we will probably guide you. Those which we can't select, we will guide them for those discovery platform use cases, which you can use and we can develop from those references. Yeah, but our team is already there to support you in case your use case has been selected. Any questions on those nomination part from anybody?
Oh yes, I have sent my mail ID. Can you please send can you please add that my mail ID also? That is
So who's this? I've already sent you the invite.
Okay, okay. Harkesh.deswal. Havals.com. Okay.
Yeah, it should already be whoever shared their email IDs. I have already shared the invitation. So you should either have it in your inbox or maybe it gets stuck in your junk folder. So one of those two.
Okay.
Just check.
I will check. Thank you.
Yeah, we are last 3 minutes in the call. Any question, any doubt, any suggestion, any idea? Feel free to share. In case you can't share it in the common forum, Mukesh or INDUS platform is always there to reach out. Please reach out to us. Yeah. In case any closing remarks from your end, you want to.
The only thing that I would like to say is that this is a fantastic opportunity for customers to kind of, for SAP customers to get support from the development team directly to build use cases, real life use cases to solve real life problems. So please do nominate your use cases. Even if you don't have too much detail, at least just fill out the form and put in your request, and we can then combine together, identify the use case that we can solve with you. That's about it. So we are on time, maybe not 2 more minutes to go. If there are no further questions, then I'd like to close the call. I will stay on the call for another 2 minutes and then disconnect.